Welcome. Today we'd like to introduce you to PortfolioEngine, our SharePoint-based, top-down project portfolio management solution that empowers executives to make critical business decisions with confidence. Achieving competitive advantage means choosing the right projects to drive the business towards its strategic objectives. With PortfolioEngine, you know which projects deliver the highest ROI while maximizing your company's resources. Resource capacity planning, portfolio sequencing, and financial target modeling take the complexity out of large decisions. In the end, a profitable portfolio leads to a profitable company. PortfolioEngine provides you all the tools you need to go end-to-end in the entire project portfolio management or PPM process. From the capture of project requests and ideas in the demand management capacity, all the way through portfolio management where we actually go into full-blown selection by doing what-if modeling, target modeling, and aligning our requested projects and active projects with key drivers in business strategies. In this selection process, we may want to do more detailed project portfolio planning. This might take the form of resource capacity planning, financial planning, scheduling, etc. to answer those all-important questions like what's my resource commitment on this? What's it going to cost me out of my budget? How long is it going to take? And in the end, what am I going to get for my efforts? If we use such objective selection criteria for our projects and are working on the right projects, we can then carry them forward into execution, where we can go through more tactical planning, execution, and management of these work efforts. With great visibility in this solution, we can provide ongoing in-process analytics to make sure that we're staying on track in executing on these projects and making sure that they finish successfully and provide the returns that we are looking for. In the end, it's a closed-loop process from capturing, selecting, planning, executing, and managing, all within the same tool sets. Now let's take a look at PortfolioEngine. Here, I'm actually looking at a request center, an area where requests for potential projects, initiatives, or work efforts can be made. Here I'm looking at a view of all requested projects. It's showing me them grouped by approved, pending, and rejected projects. As you can see, according to business workflow, we go through an approval and a review cycle that actually takes it through the various gates of approval as dictated by your business process. To get a new project request on the map is very simple. We can establish a new project request, and just to get the initial request on the radar for evaluation, all we need is things like a project name and description and a benefit statement as to why we would do that. Ways you would like to categorize these projects by things like project types, business initiatives that they align with, and other categorization is totally up to you. Notice that there's such a simple set of things to get it right into the system. As we go through different stages of the life cycle through pending and approved, other data elements make themselves relevant. For example, if I open this IT systems rollout, notice more data elements were made available for this for quantification and entry. For example, things like strategic alignment scores, risk assessment indicators, return on investment, and net present value are all things that people consider when evaluating their projects. In the end, when projects are approved, they can very seamlessly be made part of the active working portfolio from this request list, and we can then take a look at these things in total and make them an evolving and ever-changing and improving portfolio. Here in my project center, here's an entire portfolio of the projects that we're working on. In here, we can see things that are more scoring nature and more categorization in nature. For example, these are grouped by the type of projects that they are. The business initiatives that they're aligned with are listed, and we have an idea of what their budgets are and what their projected returns are. Also, there's scoring here on how well they align with our strategic objectives and how risky we assess these things have been. These are just some of the data elements that we can view in such a portfolio summary and have these things add up to a total weighted score for our projects so that we can make very objective selection criteria. Now this is just one way I'm looking at the portfolio. Let's say, for example, other than this portfolio summary view that I'm looking at here, I wanted to take a look at this by, say, alignment. Then I can go in here and see how well these projects are via strategic alignment and then rank them by strategic alignment score from top to bottom to see how well and which projects best align with what we're trying to accomplish as an organization. These are all different views and slices that we can take as we're evaluating whether the portfolio we're currently working on is the right mix of projects. From within this portfolio, we have a rich set of portfolio planning tools that will help us even further in the life cycle of this project. Let's take a look at the capacity planner and look at a capacity plan for this Xbox DVD expansion project. For this particular portfolio item, we can plan either in generic roles or name-specific individuals and plan in either terms of hours or full-time equivalents. Here we're looking at seeing that Steve Masters is the project manager from the project office that was planned for this portfolio item, and it looks like we're going to need a level effort of 25% of his bandwidth across the months from February through the end of the project. Same holds true with things like a developer. Looks like we're going to need 100% of a developer's time starting in May, etc. The idea here is that we can do this top-down capacity planning long before we have a detailed schedule and understand what the mix is going to be for these. If we're looking for candidates who are either going to fill that role or replace that role, we have robust matching capabilities to find the appropriate candidates with the appropriate availability at any given point in time. As you can see, Alan Guinaud here is a suitable alternative should we need to replace Steve Masters as the project manager with sufficient bandwidth and remaining availability to tackle the needs here during the duration of this project. We also have the ability to do detailed cost planning. So here, for example, for this same portfolio item, the Xbox project, I can build a very detailed cost plan around this. PortfolioEngine allows us to do very detailed cost planning, whether they be breakout of labor types, where costs are broken up by quantities of resource, FTEs or hours, times a rate that gives us a cost, or other types of costs like materials and software and contract labor and other costs that we can break out into budget line items that are specific to the way that we plan costs within our specific organizations, totally configurable by the customer. Also, in addition to these cost categories, we can have different cost types. Here we're looking at a budget of what we're planning on originally for the entire project, and we can track this against actuals that we enter into the system, capture via timesheets, or bring in from our financial system as well. And end of the day, the detailed budget we see here will ultimately result in a total cost that has full backup of a very detailed budget. Things that people are often doing off to the side, totally separate and distinct from their project portfolio management solution. And as we start evaluating deeper into this portfolio, we can use our what-if modeler to evaluate alternatives and make the best possible selections. Here, if I look at the portfolio and select all the proposed and active projects, for example, I can open up our modeler to see what alternatives I have and how well it fits within my constraints. Now within the modeler, I'm looking at all of the selected projects that are active or potential projects. Down below, I can look at what that means in total for these projects in the terms of either cost and or resources. Down below, I'm looking at cost. Now if I decide to do all these projects, this is in these cost categories what it would take for me on a monthly basis to do each and every one of these projects. I can also overlay targets or budgets against this. So for example, I could overlay our FY11 budget and apply that target against the model that we're looking at here right now. Notice that the values down below here on the right have changed into more of a heat map format. Where it's turning red is where the costs are exceeding the budgets that I've allocated for this year. Basically telling me that from a cost perspective, this portfolio is not doable within the same budgets that we've allocated. I can also look at this from a resource or FTE perspective or an hours perspective, and from a headcount perspective you can see that even the heads that I have fall within a shortfall if I do all of the projects that we're looking at here. So let's say, for example, I can't do this all. What I might do is I might take the lowest priority projects and I might start deselecting them from the portfolio and see how many of these I must delete until I get to the point where I can actually do the entire portfolio. Another combination might be there's some projects I might deselect and other ones I have to do. What if part of the solution mix might be that I just need to take some of these projects and move them a little farther out in time and sequence them and stage them differently so I can get all of the work done. As you can see, I'm getting closer to a mix of project selection and timing of those projects that will fit within my headcount capabilities. In the end, I can save different versions in different what-if scenarios, so I can compare and evaluate different mixes of projects and different approaches till I get something that works for the entire organization. PortfolioEngine also has tools that are helpful for the functional managers who must support these projects and work initiatives. As we showed you earlier on, we did capacity resource plans to see what kind of headcounts or FTEs we'd need for each portfolio item. But as we look at this in the aggregate and maybe slice them in a different way, say the manager or the owner of the software development area might want to understand what that requirement is of him or her and his people. So for example, I could go into the software development department and actually look at a resource plan for the entire department. So now I'm looking at a list of all the projects that the software development department is committed to, and I can see in total how many hours of my people's effort, and I could look at this in FTEs as well, but the idea, this is the commitment that's been made, and here's the roster of the people in my organization. If I open up each and every one of these projects, I can see which of my resources have been allocated to them. And then down below I can see the information totaled. So for example, down below I can see that Jill Schrader and Eric Anderson have some over-allocation periods in here that I need to deal with. I can look at these things graphically as well. For example, if I went up top and I wanted to look at this from a totals graph, I can see with Eric Anderson selected, I can graphically see where he is over-allocated. I also can look at these things in different ways. For example, if I wanted to look at totals a little bit differently, I can say to total these not by their individual resource names, but just by the roles. So the people that are affiliated with these roles, that I can see that my real problem here is the fact that I have a shortage in the developer ranks right here. If I look at my labor developer, I can see that in total from a capacity perspective, it looks like on May, June, July, and in October I have some slight over-allocations. But given the fact that as a whole they're not that great, I may be able to handle them by reallocating resource. PortfolioEngine also gives me some great reporting capabilities, from charts that are easily configurable to specific reports that will help me make portfolio decisions. Here I'm going to look at this strategic alignment versus risk report. When I run this report, I can see a report or a graphic, a bubble chart if you will, that allow me to take a look at where my proposed and active projects sit in this grid. For example, projects that are high risk and low strategic alignment would probably be not very good candidates for me. So things that are in the lower right would be things that would be fairly unattractive for me to work on. Looks like I do not have much in there. Looks like most of my things are at least lower risk, and a lot of the work that I'm doing is very high strategically aligned with what I want to do as an organization. So overall, it looks like I have a pretty good portfolio, but I can go more detailed into this and look at more information associated with each of these specific projects. We've shown you some things that give you some insight into PortfolioEngine. In summary, we provide you the tools that help you protect all your portfolio investments. Gain control of shifting priorities with enterprise visibility into all areas of your business, including projects, ongoing support, and operational activities. Make informed decisions. Select the right projects for execution by analyzing portfolio dashboards and reports that reflect planned costs, strategic alignment, and scoring criteria. And leverage our scenario modeler to validate project impact and feasibility and get the right mix. Hopefully you can do more with less by monitoring resource demand and effectively maximizing resource capacity with the resource analysis tools we've demonstrated, including the what-if modeler, resource negotiation, and heat map reporting. You should be able to get the most out of the resources that you have. With our cost planning, you can control portfolio costs, accurately plan and track all costs associated with your projects and work with flexible cost categories and cost types. And I can't stress enough that you can leverage the tools that you already own. Because we're based on the Microsoft platform, a platform that many people own a lot of, You can reduce implementation costs, training costs, and adoption by leveraging your current Microsoft investments to simplify training needs and ensure that user adoption. Thank you for your time today. If you want to learn more, go to www.PortfolioEngine.com and request a free trial and get on board with us and become a more effective organization with your portfolio management today.